Welcome to this panel. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to get started by introducing our amazing panelists. They've got long bios because they're extremely impressive individuals. So we're going to start with Selina Brown, the founder of the Black British Book Fest. So Selina is an author, marketing consultant, and event producer. At 16, she became the Youth MP, which is a member of Parliament in the UK government, for Nottingham. Impressive. After living and working in New York, Jamaica, Kenya, and Gambia, she founded Little Miss Creative, an award-winning female development agency that empowers girls in schools across the UK. During the pandemic, she wrote the picture book series Nena that became popular in 2020. The same year, Selina launched the internationally renowned Black British Book Festival, which aims to celebrate new and emerging Black British authors across the genres of literature. In May, she published her debut picture book with Penguin called My Rice is Best, and it is the fastest selling debut picture book of 2025. Welcome, Selina.
Thank
you. Next up, we have the amazing Angela Wachuka, co-founder of the Nairobi Book Festival. Angela is the founder and managing trustee at BookBank, a firm driving the restoration of some of Nairobi's most iconic public libraries. She previously led Kwani Trust, East Africa's pioneering literary journal and publishing house. After earning a degree in anthropology and law from the London School of Economics, she worked at BBC's African News and Current Affairs. Wachuka has held fellowships at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and the Obama Foundation. She has served as a judge for the Kane Prize for African Writing, is publishing at Bunk Books, and director of Nairobi Lit Fest, an annual literature festival anchored in Nairobi's public libraries. And it's not over there. How to Build a Library, a documentary about BookBank's work restoring libraries, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January of this year. Incredible to be with you both today. Yeah, well done. So let's get straight into it. There's one key thing that's brought us all here today, and that's the love of literature and storytelling. And each of us will likely have a story or remember a moment in which we fell in love with books. So I want to start with you, Selina. Could you tell us what that moment might have been for you?
Yeah. I'm going to just start by saying I am so happy to be here. Like, you are all part of a manifestation. I'm living a dream right now. And just thank you for being present. Like, this is absolutely magical. And big up Effie for doing this. Like, what? This festival is incredible. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, in terms of books, I've loved books my whole life. And I was quite fortunate to have a household full of books because my mum is like the biggest book geek out there. And so like books have always been part of my life. And I don't know if I'm really allowed to say this, but what used to happen on a Saturday morning, like I'm from a Jamaican background, so every Saturday my mum would go and buy her yam and green banana and sweet potato from the market. But prior to going to the market, she used to drop us at the library and leave us there. So the librarians were like my babysitters. And I used to be in the corner just, oh my God, just opening books from Jacqueline Wilson and Mallory Blackman. And I got into Sister Soldier. Like, I was like, yo. And so just from there, and then my love of books has just kind of progressed me. So a lot of people don't know, but I was a librarian for 10 years. Wow. Yeah. So I used to be, that was my first official job, being a librarian. And just like, I used to be such a geek, like there's something about the smell of a new book. Like, I used to be like, you know what I mean? Like I am like a book person. And so it's just natural to kind of combine my love of books with my love of Black people. And that is literally how I started the Black British Book Festival.
So it was written.
It was written, man. It was written, definitely.
And what about you, Angela? Yeah, was there a key kind of moment or core memory for you where you were like, I love literature, this is something that I want to be doing?
I grew up reading, like very many people who grew up in countries that were ex-colonies of Britain, there's a particular kind of literature that we read. So if you grew up in Nigeria, or if you grew up in Kenya, or if you grew up in Ghana, the likelihood that what you were reading in school would be the same text is very, very high. But also the likelihood that you were reading books like Hardy Boys was very, very high. Later on, it would become things that were quite generic, like Sweet Valley High and whatnot, kind of pop literature. But my first memory, I think, of seeing myself in a book and therefore sparking a lifelong love for me, for literature that I saw myself in, was by a Ghanaian writer, Aikwe Yama. The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. When I first read that text, I was a teenager, and I think it was the first time that I was reading something that felt so familiar to me, and so immediately accessible, and so unlike the kind of literature I had grown up reading. And that's what really kind of sparked a love for what became quite a long journey of discovering myself through literature, and then later dedicating kind of myself to doing the work of building worlds that made that kind of reflection possible, and especially for younger readers, but for later on in life, for myself as someone who was coming into being.
Which brings me over to the amazing work that you're doing, which is restoring libraries in Kenya. And for those who might not be familiar with your work there, will you tell us the incredible work that you're doing?
Thank you. So I started working in this field, in 2008. In 2008, so quite a while ago. And I spent nearly a decade publishing books. Started off publishing a literary journal called Kwani, which was founded by the late, great Binyavanga Wainaina. I started working with him there as the managing editor initially for the first couple of years, and then started to run the organization for a period of about 7 years. And during that time, we published all sorts of voices. We were publishing all kinds of work, from poetry to fiction to non-fiction to photography, all sorts of visual narratives, name it. If we could publish it, we were doing it. And this was also happening within the context of a sort of major shift that had happened in Kenya after a 24-year period. We had a kind of new governance structure. In 2010 would come a new constitution, and there was a great feeling in the creative sector that we were operating in the kind of space where, expression wasn't as dangerous as it used to be. And so we went fully to market and really kind of pushed the boundaries with what we were publishing. Fast forward, I transitioned from that work in 2017, and there's a connection between that work and what I then end up doing with public libraries, which was basically the person that would become my co-founder and I were working together on a festival called the Nairobi Lit Fest, which was an output of Kwani, the literary journal. And we felt at the time that we had exhausted all the spaces where we could have these sorts of gatherings. And at the time, Nairobi wasn't really a space that you could say, that all these public spaces, let's go and have this conversation there. So these sorts of congregations tended to happen in people's gardens, in bars, in restaurants, in very kind of unconventional spaces, if you like. So Wanjiru Koinange and I then walk into what is Nairobi's oldest public library, the Macmillan Memorial Library, and the plan was really just to book the venue and have our literary festival there. We found it in such a deplorable state that it wasn't going to be possible to host anything then, but it stayed in our minds, and we were bothered by the fact that this really kind of crucial public space looked like it did. The shelves were heaving with old books that no one had borrowed in decades. The state of the building, to be honest, was deplorable. The collection didn't inspire engagement. There was no programming that would bring people in through the doors. And so it felt like a massive gap in the middle of the city. This is right in the heart of the CBD. This is a library that was built in the 1930s. And we walk away, but it stays on our minds. I start to send book donations. we do these cute little interventions that never quite feel like they're enough. And a couple of years later, we then kind of decide to take this seriously as a possible job that we could do, as a possible service for Nairobians. And Wanjiru got commissioned by the Commonwealth Foundation to write a piece about Nairobi Life. She ends up spending quite a bit of time researching this library. The information that she comes across is so intriguing and makes it immediately obvious that we must do something about this library. In a nutshell, it was built in 1931. It was built by English colonial settlers, and for nearly 30 years was not accessible to indigenous Kenyans. It was imagined as a library that would serve settlers exclusively. And so with the onset, with independence coming in 1963, it was about 1958 that they start to allow first Indians and then Kenyans into the building. So given that history, we then research actually what the ecology of public libraries looks like across the city of Nairobi. We've now expanded that library to across Kenya and mapped all the public libraries in the country. But that context is what informed why we wanted to work on this specific library, but also all the other community libraries that we have since restored. And the idea really was to make this library our own and to confront the very uncomfortable truths and realities that it was built under, and that the ecosystem of public libraries was built under in Kenya. So that's the context for the work. Yeah.
So is it about like reclamation as much as it is about opening up space again for Kenyans?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how many have you restored to date?
We've restored 2 public libraries in Kenya. We're about to start work on the 3rd, which is this one that I'm talking about, Nairobi's oldest.
Incredible.
It turns 95 next year. We haven't gotten started on the physical restoration of it, but we've learned in the last 7-8 years that the work of restoring libraries is not merely physical. In fact, physical restoration is a very small aspect of that work. So we began the work with looking at the collections, with inviting the arts community in Nairobi by giving sub-grants to come and utilize this space, in essence, to reclaim it. We started by restoring and digitizing the collections that we found there, which are very, very interesting about like Kenya's becoming. Because as you can imagine, if a library has been in existence for 95 years, Nairobi as a city is only 100 years old. And so all the records about the becoming of the city, about the way that the city was designed, the way that the city looks today, the lack of access to certain services, all that paperwork is in that library. And so it's a big, big repository of how Kenya was imagined.
Wow, so it almost shows you the levels of storytelling here, right? Because you're doing the work of archivists, of historians, of trying to, get stories to people through the physical books, reclaiming the narrative of the library space. That's absolutely incredible what you're doing. If there's anything anyone here can do to support you, please let us know. Anything anyone here can do to support the work that you're doing, please do let us know. This is your moment.
Yes, thank you. She's asking me to plug the work. Absolutely. If you go on bookbank.org, and that's bookbank with a U, like a bunker, you can find out a lot of information about how to support the work. We receive all sorts of assistance. We do this work in community with the communities where we're based. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved. And these range from sharing whatever resources you have, but also to like coming to visit physically, attending things like the Literary Festival that we now host annually in those libraries every June.
Incredible, thank you. Selina, your work has taken you across various different sides of publishing, so you come at this with also a very unique perspective. So from starting your own literature festival to publishing children's books. For context, where we're from in England, less than 1% of students studying toward the end of their high school years will read a book by an author of colour. So it's practically no one is reading any books by authors of colour in England. At school. And so given your unique perspective on both sides of the coin, kind of publishing, but being a published author, and also running your own literature festival, how does this inform your practice around how you build your festivals?
Yeah, I think it gives me a very unique perspective. So just to give some context, when I started the Literature Festival, I had no contacts whatsoever. I didn't know anybody in the lit industry. And to be honest, when I came to certain spaces, they were like, who's this young black girl trying to say that she can put on a literature festival? And they didn't believe me, you know what I mean? And so just the challenges and the barriers that I was met with in terms of access from the beginning showed me what I was dealing with. But I persevered anyway, because and galvanizing the community and just putting on an event that speaks directly to our underserved community, you know. And so just from that kind of perspective in terms of getting sponsorship, in terms of getting the just the support from the industry, the publishing industry in the UK was very difficult. Because again, they didn't know me and who I was, and because I was a black woman, I had to prove myself in the first year. So the first year I decided to take it out of Birmingham, because a lot of what happens with these events is that they stay within the community, and that's fine. But I knew that this event here, that the festival deserved a national platform and even an international platform, because our core aim is to give visibility to these black authors. So I was like, actually, this event, we've had it in the community, but this festival is now going to go to the biggest art centre in London, and we're going to have 4,000 people turn up on one day. And they were like, no, you can't do that. I was like, watch and see. So it happened. 4,000 people came up, and you know, thank you very much. Thank you. So 4,000 people came in 2023. Last year, we'd done 5,500 people in one day. And so now it's no longer a case of, we don't believe you, I've demonstrated impact, so you're going to have to listen now. And so because of that, a lot of doors have opened. And so from the other side of it, yes, I'm a published author as well. And again, going into the industry as a published author, I think as a black creative and a writer, what happens is they make you feel like, you know, you're doing a benefit, like they're giving you that they're helping you in some way. Like, we're helping you, you know.
You should be grateful.
Yeah, you should be grateful that you're here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, you're about to make some money from my book. Like, I'm helping you. I'm putting money in your pocket. You understand? So that's how we were having to walk into these spaces. Like, we're actually helping you. You're not helping us. I know that my community is underserved, and I know this book is amazing. So let's see what's going to happen. So what happened was... when it came to marketing, I was like, okay, cool, marketing team, what's happening? What are we doing? Oh, we're going to go to this publication and this publication. They have a conveyor belt of how they market every single book. But the conveyor belt only serves the white people. It doesn't serve our community. You're not tapping in to the people that I know need to read this. So I said to them, I have an idea for how we can market this. And they were like, okay, cool, what's the idea? I said, let's take this to the street. Because I know, like, you know, from like Tupac to Biggie to all of that, they all started on the street from the back of cars, selling directly to the people. So I was like, if we could have a stand, a stall, a vendor stand on Oxford Street, which is in the central of London, and sell directly to the people, I think that would be a way to get the book sales, you know. Let's take it directly to the people. They were like, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? No, so much pushback. And so within the industry, again, I had to have an ally because they weren't listening to me. So my agent, Jody, she actually had to go and speak to them. A white lady had to go and speak to them to convince them to do it. And so we went to the streets and we sold the books, and people came out to support like I knew they were. And within 3 days, we sold over 1,000 copies of the book. That's why it became the fastest selling debut book of 2025 so far. And so our people do need the literature, but it's about going directly to them. And this industry doesn't cater to our people. And so we have to take the marketing, the messaging, the writing into our own hands. We have to use sometimes we have to use obviously their establishments and the structures, but we can also do it by ourselves. So I'm very privileged to now sit on both sides in terms of the literature festival, that door being open to me in terms of they now listen to me in the publishing, in my publisher as well listens to me. And so it's a very privileged place to be in. But I always say to people, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for all of us, you understand? So now when another black person comes, they actually listen because it's been done before. So when another person advocates and says, you know what, let's try this in marketing, they listen because it's been done before. And so I'm trying to help people up, man. It's not about, in Jamaica, we've got a thing called crabs in the barrel where, everybody's trying to grab people down. No. We have to lift each other up, and that's how we all win. And so, yeah.
Wow, incredible, absolutely incredible work. And now's your opportunity to plug the Black British Book Fest. What can people here do to support your work?
In terms of our work, I think it's just, it's just about just liking on Instagram. So our Instagram's BB Book Festival. And we have the amazing Tabitha Brown coming this year to our festival, which is amazing. And so that's a real big win for us. It puts us on the global stage. And she's amazing, her team's amazing. So we're really excited about that. So I must say, we have our annual festival every single year that we do in October, but we do work all year round. And so we have 2 libraries now, 2 libraries in London that we've started because, as you mentioned, libraries are declining, they're closing down. Black books, access to black books within communities aren't there. So we've started libraries. And so we have 2 now. We have, we tour schools and a lot. So although, people see the UK as a very privileged place, a lot of children don't actually have books in their houses. We take for granted that we have books in that. No. So we done our first children's festival this year, and we were able to get, books from different organizations. And the most beautiful thing about the festival is when the young children walked out the door with 5 books and hugging them in their arms, man. We need to really help the younger generation. We've partnered with different brands such as Paramount, such as Pam Macmillan, and we've run programs and masterclasses. We curate a lot as well. So we have a large festival in the UK called Glastonbury and other festivals. They now know us as an organisation that knows black literature, so we curate a lot of panels there as well. And so the work takes us all year round. We've recently done an international project with the Jamaica Book Festival where we done a programme where we connected young people in Jamaica and young people in the UK to create an anthology. That was an amazing piece of work. So again, it's just all about giving visibility to black British authors and all black authors across the diaspora. That's all I'm about. And yeah, I'm just so happy to be here, man. This is like a dream, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of your amazing work. So all of us here, we're in the business of dreaming. So that's whether it's free fiction writing or building community spaces that bring people together across the world. Today being a beautiful example of that. So shout out the New York Black and African Literature Festival. Festivals are sites where these dreams are realized in the physical realm through the cultural, including imagination and legacy building. So I wanted to ask each of you, and we can start with you, Angela. How do stories help us cross borders and transport us through words? So particularly in relation to what they can teach us about different cultures and connecting readers who may never meet in the physical, but they're connecting through the same books.
That's a great question. Thank you. That's a great question. When we started the Nairobi Lit Fest, it was in the thick of the pandemic. So actually our very first edition was a virtual one. And it was a real great testament to connecting during, I think, a time when it was needed the most. And for me, it really kind of cemented this idea that we are connected in the realm of literature and in the realm of ideas in general, and that's very, very important, that it gives us a grounding through which to see not just ourselves, but to see and imagine each other. I think one of the crucial jobs that these gatherings do is to give us a mirror for ourselves, but also to connect us in ways in a world that has become increasingly polarized, in ways that makes it clear that, you know, you're like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy to want an alternative way, an alternative something to what is happening in this world, you know. I think the wonderful writing that's coming out, when I look at what's coming out of the global south in particular, and I'm very interested in making Nairobi Lit Fest a gathering space for that, because when we have an author from Brazil come to Nairobi and connect with Kenyan feminists and say, my world is making sense in a way that it hadn't before, right? Or you have a Palestinian author come to Kenya and say, I did not understand that there was so much solidarity for what we're going through. I think those are very tangible ways in which we can connect with each other. Our theme this year at the festival, which was back in June, was borrowed from Octavia Butler. There is no end to what a living world will demand of you. And we used that as a springboard for this gathering because we felt it was very important to talk about alternative knowledge systems. And I think that's another crucial way for us to connect. For a very long time, the kind of indigenous knowledges that we come from have been relegated to a very peripheral space in global conversation and in global imagination and in representation. And I think that these festivals give us a really great opportunity to have a conversation with ourselves, and sometimes without the intervention of the spaces that we have imagined we need. For me, it's been a very strong affirmation that we're enough and that our ideas are marvelous and world-building and can change trajectories for generations to come. So for me, it's not just the power of, you know, being able to say, like, a typical gathering for us, a typical Nairobi Lit Fest has about 53 sessions over a 3-day period. We bring together between 60 to 65 authors, writers, thinkers, intellectuals, academics, name it. If you're producing fresh ideas that we think we can use as a springboard, as a reference point, but also as a space of debate, we welcome that. So it's usually an eclectic, wonderful atmosphere. But in the past 2 years, it's also been a very somber one because Kenya has been going through it. We're talking about having conversations in a space that looks, well, doesn't look like this, but in public libraries. And it's been very important to me that it's happening in civic spaces, a space where everyone feels welcomed and where they can have a dignified experience once they walk in through the door. And existing, I think, in a space like Nairobi, a city that is very much, in a city where your experience is very driven by how much you can pay for what. It's very important to me that we do it in spaces that are free for people to access and that they feel welcomed in and that they can have a dignified experience in. The reality is that as we were sat having those conversations, people were getting shot in the street. And so there is also the question of how do your conversations and your ways of imagining the world, how are they speaking to the reality happening on live television on the ground? And the festival has also really given us a great opportunity to bring the street into the libraries and to not shy away from having those conversations and to use those conversations as an opportunity to critique, to debate, to push, and to criticize and condemn what was happening on the streets of Kenya.
So you're contending with a lot of different variables and factors here, and I think what you've shown really beautifully is that putting on a literature festival isn't just putting on an event. It's an act of art, and it's a love. It's rooted in a deep love for your community, and it's also curation. So I want to ask you, kind of on the back of that, all things considered, how do you approach curating the Nairobi Lit Fest?
One of the things I enjoy about it is that there isn't a set formula to that. This year, for instance, we felt very strongly that we wanted to react and speak to what was happening with the protests in Kenya. And so very quickly we pivoted to making it a conversation about that. We looked at texts that guided the thinking around the need for radical thought, for instance. But the administration of it, in a nutshell, happens from around October. Our festival is in June, so it's quite a long process. We typically identify a sort of theme that we want to work with, and then we'll start to look at the world and the people who are producing thought around that, and then start to think about where to put them on the program. The first day we ran masterclasses. We've had people like Benedine Evaristo teach fiction masterclasses. We've had poets teach poetry masterclasses, photography. So the first day is quite craft-driven. And then the second day is dedicated entirely to children. So we'll work with children authors and children themselves, lots of storytelling, that sort of thing. And then day 3 and day 4 is a mix of book talks and panel discussions and some parties. We love to throw parties.
You gotta have the party in there.
We have to throw parties. So it's quite an intense process. And because we also do it in collaboration, 2 years ago, we partnered with Hay Festival Global, who run a number of festivals across the world, but whose mainstay is in the UK, with the Hay Festival UK. And what that gives us an opportunity to do is they run festivals in Peru, in Mexico, in different places across Latin America. And it really does give us a window to also tap into thinkers from those regions. And so that can be quite a fun process. We have a festival curator who starts to put in the work from October. And then we have a festival manager who it feels starts to put in the work from January. Of every year.
Yeah.
And then the team who's working on restoring the libraries basically dedicate themselves to this work for a period of about 3 to 4 months. So it's a situation of kind of all hands on deck, but also a really great opportunity, I think, for us to connect the work that we're doing restoring public libraries. So conversations around things like archives, what to do with archives, and literature itself. It's a great kind of opportunity for us to marry all of these interests that we have. Yeah. So we really do have great fun with it. Yeah.
Incredible. I have to come next year for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we're coming. We'll be there.
Everyone's coming.
We're coming. I think one thing that's clear from both your work is how literature and storytelling is part of every kind of part of your life, from like writing to publishing to restoration. And so before we go open to the floor, so get your questions ready, guys. I want to ask you as well, how do you approach curating? Like, you had EVE last year. Come on.
Yeah, so we do 3 festivals in 1 year. So we have obviously the major flagship festival in October in London, and then we do one around March in Manchester, and then we do our children's festival as well in March as well. So we have 3 festivals, and so it's a whole year-round process, but it typically starts at the top of the year. And so I have a team of 10 people that work with me now. So like, it's not just me alone. There's no way I could do the work. And so a lot of the work goes into my amazing, incredible team. So what we do is that we begin at the top of the year, around January, with pitch meetings. So what a pitch meeting is basically you go to the publisher, the different publishers like Penguin and Pan Macmillan, HarperCollins, Hachette, and you go to we like to go in person. We go in person to their offices, and they pitch us their black books for that year. So they'll say, yeah, this book came out, and this book came out, and this theme, and this theme. Unfortunately what happened this year. So typically when we started around 2021, 2022, when we went to pitch meetings, we'd have hundreds of books, and we're like, whoa, this is amazing. And what's happened this year is that it's declined by nearly 50%. And so they're not acquiring black books like they used to. Why is that, you ask? Because there hasn't been a murder. So when George Floyd got murdered, there was a lot of money pumped into the publishing industry. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, black stories, going to do that. I'm going to them now, and it's a completely different conversation. Completely different conversation. So unfortunately, it takes a black life to be sacrificed for them to even think that we matter sometimes. It's scary. And
not just sacrifice, but profitable.
That's what it is. And this is what, and what happened. And so we speak about George Floyd, but further on in the UK, in around 1993, Stephen Lawrence got murdered. Another young black boy on the streets. And there was so much money pumped into the arts and everything. And that's how my auntie came through into the arts. She's like a producer. And she came through because of the money that was put. So a black man, unfortunately, and so this conversation about acquiring books and if we matter and when we matter and, when they see us and us even asking, just the whole thing about asking. Why are we asking, man? Collectively, we have so much money, and we don't even have to go to these people in order to. It's really political, but yeah, let's stick to curating. So in terms of curating, then we get the books and we sit down as a team, and we never start with a theme because that limits us. We never start with a theme. So what we do is see the common thread that comes between all the books. And we'll be like, okay, there's a lot of books about romance, or there's a lot of books about health, or there's a lot of books about industry. And we kind of just group them together. Okay, these books, And so because we're black and we know what our people want, we always curate from that perspective of blackness. We're not afraid to be too black. Like, we're going to be black, And so we always try and say, okay, what's the message here? What we're trying to relay, what we're trying to teach, what conversations need to be had. And so that's kind of the way that we start with the curation. And then obviously, because we have 40 events in one, this year we have 80 authors and 36 events in one day. So it's a massive undertaking. And so we take over a massive large building called the Barbican Centre. And so, it's always driven by the people. And so there's so many different literature festivals that happen in the UK, and they've been going for a very, very long time, but they're aimed at people that read. The thing that's different from our festival is that I'm always trying to think, how can I get non-readers into this room, man? People that don't have books in their house, or don't think that literature is boring, or how do I get them people? Because they're the people that what I want to inspire, that I want to show that reading for joy is a thing, that I want to give new kind of perspectives to, whose minds I want to open. And so the marketing's always driven from that standpoint. Like, we have obviously curated sessions around reading and all that stuff and writing, but it's always. And so one of the things that we do differently is that we have a lot of headline celebrities, because that's what draws people in. So we grab them with the celebrities. And then when they're there, we're like, yeah, these are the books, man. And so that always works for us every single year.
Thank you.
So.
No, it's great. That's what Thank you. I just want to make sure we've got enough time for
no
some
problem.
questions from the audience. So we've got time for a few questions. Who would like to ask something? Put your hand up. Don't be shy. Yeah. Is there a mic? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming, by the way. This is really a fruitful conversation. I kind of want to ask for like the young authors who are here, the new authors, because I just released a book this year in April.
Congrats.
So yeah, my first book, so appreciate
What's it called? Where can we find it?
Oh, it's called Rhythm of the Word, Lyrics, Poetry, and Prose. And it's actually on Barnes & Nobles right now, so we made it to Barnes & Nobles.
Amazing.
And I actually was at the New York Poetry Festival this year, and I was at the Bronx Book Fair this year. So I've done some local book fairs, but how do I get to this international stage? Like, I've been doing out the trunk, out my bag book stuff and like going grassroots, but how do I expand and do the bigger things and become international? And that's for like both of you guys, or all three of you.
Okay, yeah, I can take that.
Me?
You also talk about your festival as well. So all three of us are festival producers, and she also has her own amazing festival as well. Tell us how you started.
Girl, this is not about me, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
So in terms of, so how we differ from other festivals is that we actually take self-published authors, and when we open for pitch meetings, so please join our newsletter, go onto our website, www.blackbritishbookfestival.com, join our newsletter, and when we open pitch meetings, we open it up to everybody, and so you don't have to have a publisher behind you. Our reader team looks through all the applications, and again, we just see the common threads, and so if we feel that you fit into a group, or you have something to say that's really relevant to a particular topic or workshop or panel, then that's literally how it goes, and then we'll contact you and we'll make it happen. So just sign up to the newsletter, keep on reading them. Again, at the top of the year, we open up the pitch meetings, send in your pitch about your book, and it literally happens that way.
If I was to answer the question, which I'm going to do right now, I would say like collaboration is really key. So I run a book festival called the Free Books Festival in London, and every year it's an entirely free festival. We sell out every year, and we have authors from all different backgrounds. But we've been running for 5 years, and we're a non-profit, heavy on the non-profit, and it's purely through collaboration. So like we work with other like book clubs, other festivals, youth clubs, community centers, like just pitch to everyone. And also like if you're like right now, like you've got a barrier, you want to become international, speaking these things out loud, you never know who might have solutions for you. So just be loud and proud with your work, collaborate, reach out to people, and like the worst that can happen is someone says no or you get aired, but no one's ever died from that. Do you know what I mean? So like just keep pushing your work.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Welcome. Did you want to answer?
Sure. For us, like I said, we start planning in October. So October to December is a really great time to pitch. And our DMs are always open. NYBALF Lit Fest on X, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, and on IG. DM us.
Greetings. My name is Ife. I started a book festival in Connecticut because we didn't have a black one. It's called the Culturally Lit Fest, and you all are very inspiring for me. This is our 6th year. We're October 4th, so you're welcome
Congratulations.
to come down to Connecticut. It's on the train.
See that.
And the reason that I started is because I like going to book festivals and reading books, and it's Connecticut. New England, you know, and it was very sterile. So I appreciate being here and getting this inspiration from you all, and look forward to visiting everybody's book festival next year. I'm going to put it in my, but I too am a nonprofit as well. So, and that's all. I just wanted to say I'm just very inspired and taking all these notes, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Congratulations.
likewise, please connect with us.
It's culturally lit with a K, though. With a K.
So where can we find you? Say again.
culturallylit.org.
Thank you.
With a K.
Can I respond to that?
In New Haven, Connecticut, it's October 4th.
Angela?
Thank you for sharing your work. I wanted to say that sometimes let me rephrase this. One of the things that I really care about as someone who produces festivals and does kind of the work behind the scenes is that people who do that also have an opportunity to connect. So we explore at our festival not just bringing in writers, but also organizers, very crucially. So festival directors, festival producers, people working behind the scenes. And I think that we have a great opportunity as festivals to also explore together the possibility of exchanges of the people who are running the festivals, who are your curators, who are your producers, and what can we all learn from each other.
Yeah, 100%. It's rare that there's a panel like this, actually. So it's real. It's a real privilege to be in conversation with you guys. We have time for a couple more questions, as long as we keep them short and sweet. And we'll start with Shani, and then we'll go back over to you.
Hey everyone, so it's not really a question, it's more like an addition to what's been said. So I'm a book influencer turned author from London, so I'm really proud of these guys, these two women here. Actually, all of you guys, I know you from just book festivals just generally, which kind of speaks to my point, but I think social media has really changed the game in terms
Wait, what's your book called?
Oh,
and where
sorry.
can people find you?
So my name is Shani Akel, and my book is called For Such a Time as This. It came out in June last year. Yeah. It's a short story collection about Black love, friendship, and community during the pandemic years, mainly set in South London, but also I've got a few stories set in Jamaica and Ghana as well. But what I was going to say is that when I was promoting my book, I connected a lot with Black book influencers. So I think TikTok has really changed the game in terms of books being published, books being promoted. And so I think for people that are having their books published, but also for people that curate festivals, it's really key to tap into the Black book influencers on TikTok, on Instagram, reach out to them. I sent copies via my publisher to a lot of the people I had connected with online. I think Angela and I, we met at a book festival in Nigeria last year, so I think it really just speaks to the global African diaspora. I've got friends here as well that I met in Jamaica at the Calabash Festival. Justine, I don't think could make it, but I think there is real power in the global African diaspora in the States, in the UK, in Africa, and the Caribbean. And there are so many of us, and there is real power in numbers. And I think social media is just making us even more connected. So I think in addition to networking in person, don't forget about the online spaces as well.
Thank you so much. And we had a question over there at the back. Do you want to grab the mic? Thank you.
Hi, thank you all so much for being here. I was also extremely inspired by the work that you guys have all put into what you do. Angela, I am also a Kenyan, and my name is also Angela, so hello. And I recently learned about the Nairobi Literature Festival right after I had left Kenya. I was there earlier this year, so you're actually one of the inspirations for me wanting to come to this event. So thank you for bringing me here. And I just wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the Macmillan Library, how you are in the process of digitizing some of the collections that are there, and I was wondering how far along this process is, and if like visiting researchers have, or even just the public in general, has access to some of these materials for, research purposes, because I have to write a thesis soon, and I think this would be like an extremely great resource to use potentially. Yeah, that's it.
Great question.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for coming today, Angela. The very first thing when we walked through the doors of Macmillan and looked at the archive collection, the very first thing that we did was catalog the entire collection just to get a sense of what we were looking at. The book collection, I still remember, I think the numbers were about 175,000 thereabouts. The archive collection is infinite. We still don't know kind of like the whole size of everything. But what we have digitized so far adds up to about 500,000 individual archives. After we digitized those, we started to publish them on a platform, and then literally got overwhelmed by the amount of material that we had. So we took everything down, went back to rebuild, and we will then launch a new platform this October. And on that platform, the idea is free access for everyone from anywhere. However, if you want to use the archives for any kind of like commercial projects and whatnot, there are ways for us to then get in touch with us to explore what the IP permissions look like. But so far, that number of just over 500,000 pages, we're looking at national gazettes dating back from the 1920s, city council minutes of their meetings, with crucial decisions including what parts of the city indigenous Kenyans could access using which passes. So there's a lot of information in there. Photographs dating back to the late 1890s, and lots of ordinances and gazette notices and that sort of thing. If you need access before October, we'd be happy to give it to you for whatever reason. But if you're able to wait until October, the best way to gain access and to know that we've launched it is by joining our mailing list. We send out a newsletter every 2 weeks with updates about all the projects that we're carrying out. So, and I'd be happy to talk some more after this conversation if there's specific information that you need about the archives.
Cool, and that is all we have time for, guys. Sorry if there was anyone that had any questions that they wanted to ask, but I'm sure you can get a chance to ask afterwards. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much, Selina. It was really incredible to learn from you guys today, and thank you for being an amazing audience.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And thank you to our moderator for guiding this conversation. Thank you.